Hey Internet, Scolo here, fresh from work, and before you ask, I know it's a nice hat, and yes, this is how I usually walk around every day, at work. Yeah. Anyway, I'm responding this way because I know I can't summarize my thoughts in 500 characters or less. I think the comment blocks are really small. I am not saying that modern Christianity is repressive. I think that it is almost impossible to speak of modern Christianity as a whole, because it has become Balkanized. It is so segmented, it runs the gamut of opinions. Your highly socially conservative American evangelicals are going to be well removed from the liberal wing of the Episcopalian Church, for example. And so trying to speak of Christianity as a whole as repressive or tolerant or any other adjective other than believing in Christ is going to be extremely difficult, if not completely impossible. Modern Christianity I made no comment on. I was speaking of historical Christianity. Christianity or Christendom as a historical social entity has been repressive. This is why the Jews were second-class citizens throughout Europe for pretty much up until 1945. This is why the Aboriginal religions of Europe no longer exist. This is why you've had various backlashes against heresies, and you've had your inquisitions, and all of these things. And this is just because Christianity, like any other social movement, is an ideology, and people will do all sorts of things to support their ideology. Does this mean that most individual Christians were probably decent people back then? Yes, they probably were. But you can't be denied that as a social force, Christianity generally supported itself and to the detriment of others, before tolerance became such a big buzzword. So, I'm not, it's the same thing as saying, okay, I am a white Anglo-Saxon, ex-Protestant, right? I'm a white American. Other white Americans back in time owned black Americans, right? I think I've said this before. I am not responsible for that ownership. I am not guilty by association, but I must keep that in mind because it is part of the social context of history. It is part of the inevitable relationship of white Americans towards black Americans. Slavery has been done, it cannot be undone, and it will always be that sort of elephant in the room when, that can never be forgotten. It might be forgiven for individuals, it might be understood, but it can't be forgotten. And it is only through this understanding of the past that we grow in our understanding to realize why this was wrong and why it should not recur. Similarly, Americans have engaged in wars of downright imperialism at times, and some would say are still doing so right now. And it is only through understanding this history that we can hope for it not to recur. And the same reason, Christians and the greater group that is Christendom has been responsible for repression in the past. This is a fact. Does that reflect on modern Christians right now? Only if they continue it. If they don't continue it, more power to them. If they work to rectify it, the most power to them. It is up to every individual inside any social group to decide the timber of their society and deciding, well, okay, do we live up to our ideals or not? Do we go as far as we can in the pursuit of what we think is right or not? And if any individual in any given group is horrified at the very concept that their group may have been repressive in the past, well, then that person had better make every possible attempt to ensure that by their own actions, their own group isn't repressive. Now, I know that's a big thing to ask of just some guy going around on the internet, but I just want to clarify my statements and my thoughts. I am not saying modern Christianity is oppressive or repressive. I'm saying historically it has been, but this does not need to continue into the future, and you can't even really say it right now because Christianity is so many different things. You can only say that certain groups within Christianity tend to be repressive, and you can also say that other groups tend to be extremely tolerant. And that is the key here, is that I think it's better for Christians, for Jews, for Muslims, for atheists, for whoever, to look into the past of their group and see who didn't live up to the standards and say, yeah, those people were bad, and yeah, the members, the Christians and Jews and Muslims and atheists who supported those guys were bad, and we're not going to let that happen again. That's all. Oh, and another thing. Have a good day, you know? This is what the internet is for. Marketplace of free ideas, right?